Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our lecture today, Intestinal Cestoda. Objectives of our lecture: define intestinal cestoda, identify common name of the parasite, name of disease and habitat, describe the morphology and anatomy of the parasite, understand the mode of infection, describe the life cycle, explain the incubation period, discuss signs, symptoms, and complications of the disease. Explain the methods of diagnosis, describe the treatment, and explain prevention. The term helminths has been derived from a Greek word meaning worms. It was originally meant to refer to only intestinal worms, but now includes tissue parasites as well as many free-living species. Classification of helminths. Metazoa are classified into two phylums, which are phylum Platyhelminthes and phylum Nemathelminthes. تقسم الطفيليات التابعة إلى subkingdom Metazoa متعددة الخلايا إلى شعبتين، شعبة الديدان المسطحة وشعبة الديدان الحلقية. Platyhelminthes is divided into two classes, which are Cestodi, the common name is tapeworms, and class Trematodi, the common name is flukes. While Nemathelminthes has only one class called Nematodi, the common name is roundworms. شعبة الديدان المسطحة تقسم إلى كلاسين، إلى صنفين: صنف الديدان الشريطية وصنف المخرمات أو المثقبات، في حين شعبة الديدان الحلقية لها صنف واحد هو صنف الديدان الحلقية. This is a comparison between phylum Platyhelminthes and phylum Nemathelminthes. Body is flattened dorso-ventrally in parasites of Platyhelminthes, while body is cylindrical in parasites of Nemathelminthes. Body cavity absent in parasites of Platyhelminthes. Body cavity is present in parasites of Nemathelminthes. Alimentary canal absent or rudimentary. القناة الهاضمة تكون مفقودة أو أثرية التركيب، أثرية الوجود، في حين parasites of Nemathelminthes alimentary canal is complete. Suckers present. Suckers are structures. Its function in attachment with the mucosal layer of small intestine of definitive host. Suckers present in parasites of Platyhelminthes, while parasites of Nemathelminthes we can see suckers. Mostly hermaphrodite. We can see male and female genital organs in the same worm, while parasites of Nemathelminthes sexually differentiated into male worm and female worm. General characters of cestoda. Tapeworms are bilaterally symmetrical. Flat body is divided into three sections: scolex, neck, and proglotid. جسمها مقسم إلى ثلاثة مناطق: منطقة الهيد التي تسمى السكولكس، ثم منطقة العنق، وبعد منطقة العنق منطقة القطع الجسمية proglottid or strobila, which are immature, then mature, then gravid segments. Scolex contains several suckers and may have hooks. Each proglottid contains a complete set of male and female reproductive organs that produce sex cells. Proglottids or strobila are formed in the section at the base of the neck, with the maturing ones moving farther back as new ones is formed in front of them. تتكون القطع الجسمية، ونلاحظ أن أقصى قطعة من جسم الطفيلي هو القطعة التي تكون أكثر نضوجا، وتتكون القطع الحديثة إلى الأمام من القطع القديمة التي تتجه دائما إلى خلف جسم الطفيلي. Tapeworms are sessile, which means they can't move by their own. تكون جالسة لا تمتلك أي وسائل للحركة. Tapeworms have a tough tegument that protects against the host digestive juices. التيجومنت اللي هو السكين يحتوي على طبقة غليظة من التيجومنت التي تحميه من تأثير العصارات الهاضمة للمضيف. Tapeworm lack digestive system. It absorbs food directly through the body walls. بما أنها فاقدة للجهاز الهضمي كما سبق ذكره، فهي تمتص المواد الغذائية مباشرة عبر البادي وول. Excretory system excrete worm waste consists of pairs of ventrolateral and dorsolateral longitudinal canals joined in the scolex, also joined near the posterior margin of each proglottid. These canals have ciliated phloem cells. عن طريق هذا الجهاز الإبرازي المتكون من قناتين بالإضافة إلى الخلايا اللهبية المهدبة، يتم طرح المواد السامة، المواد الناتجة من عمليات الأيض للطفيلي. Proglottids near the end of the body form mature eggs. Life cycle begins as these eggs are fertilized. The zygotes in the very last segment begin to differentiate, and these segments become filled with embryos. These embryos, each surrounded by a shell, emerge from proglottid either by a pore or by the ruptured segment wall. خروج هذه البيوض التي تكون حاوية على أجنة التي تدعى بالهكساكانث embryo inside the ova. خروج هذه البيوض تخرج بطريقتين: أما عن طريق وجود ثقب في الجرافيت سيجمنت، أو عن طريق تمزق جدار السيجمنت. Embryos leave their host with the feces and remain in water or leaves or in other places from which they may be picked up by another host. The first parasite is Hymenolapis nana, common name the dwarf tapeworm, name of disease Hymenolapiasis nana, host human and rodents, habitat in the small intestine. Morphology of this parasite: small in size, about 2 to 4 centimeters in length, scolex provided with 4 spherical sucker, and short rostellum with 20 to 30 hooks. Neck is long and slender. Width of each proglottid is greater than its length. Rarely seen in feces specimens. Usually disintegrate in intestine. عادة ما نلاحظ تفتت هذه القطع الجرافيت سيجمنتس التي تكون مليئة بالأوفا، تفتتها في الانتستين. Real image of this parasite under electron microscope, we can see the scolex provided with 4 spherical sacars and rostellum provided with 20 to 30 hooks. Mature segment. We said every mature segment provided with complete set of male and female genital organs. 3 testes, first one, second and third one, and this structure is the ovary. Common genital duct lead to common genital pore. Gravid segment. Each one of these segments is filled with eggs. Other image of this parasite under light microscope, scolex region, neck, then immature segments, mature segments, and gravid segments. Diagnosis. Habitat of this parasite in the small intestine of the host. So diagnosis by present of the eggs in the stool. Egg covered with outer membrane, which is thin, transparent, and colorless. Then inner membrane, which is called embryophore, محمل الجنين, encloses embryo. This embryophore provided with 2 knobs like thickenings. نلاحظ أن الغشاء الداخلي أو محمل الجنين يحتوي على بروزين أو تركيبين يشبهان المقابض. Embryo, which is called hexacanth embryo because it contains 3 pairs of hooks. The first pair, the second pair, and the third pair. Between outer membrane and embryophore, we can see polar filaments in the space between outer and inner membrane of the ova. Mode of transmission. There are 3 ways of transmission, either by direct transmission, which is called external autoinfection, or indirect or autoinfection, internal autoinfection. The first pathway is direct external autoinfection. Host ingests eggs that hatches in the duodenum. Indirect pathway, it is accidental ingestion of infected arthropod, which are intermediate hosts, like rice beetles and flower beetles, in which cysticercoid larvae are released and develop into adult worms in the small intestine of the host. The third pathway in the transmission is autoinfection internal transmission, maybe can occur. The first pathway is direct pathway, external autoinfection by ingestion of embryonated egg contain hexacanth embryo by the patient, then hatch to hexacanth embryo and go to the intestine, attach with the mucosa of intestine by the sacars, and produce the other segments of the worm. The second pathway, accidental pathway, It is ingestion of embryonated egg by the intermediate host, as we said, such as rice beetles or flower beetles. After ingestion by intermediate host, eggs hatch into cysticercoid. Mode of infection: by ingestion of intermediate host contain the larval stage of this parasite, which is called cysticercoid. After ingestion, this cysticercoid go to the intestine and complete the life cycle by making attachment in the mucosa of small intestine by these suckers and hooks, and complete the formation of the segments. The third pathway, internal auto-infection. Inside the body, eggs hatch to hexacanth embryo, convert to cysticercoid, then penetrate intestinal villi and make attachment with the mucosa of a small intestine. After that, formation of the other proglottids of the worm. Oncosphere, a term of the embryo, hexacanth embryo or oncosphere. إذا مصطلحين، الهكساكانث امبريو الجنين السداسي الأشواك هو نفس مصطلح الأونكوسفير، نفس المعنى. Treatment: drug of choice is praziquantel, 25 mg per kilogram single dose. The other parasite, Hymenolipus diminuta, common name rat tapeworm, name of disease Hymenolipiasis diminuta, host in rat, mice, human is accidental host. Habitat also in small intestine, intermediate host rat fleas or flower beetles or grain beetles. Morphology: it has bigger eggs and proglottid than Hymenolipus nana, and infect mammals using insects as intermediate host. في طفيل الهيمينوليبس ديمينيوتا يتوجب وجود المضيف الوسطي، في حين الهيمينوليبس نانا كانت إحدى طرق الانتقال هي وجود المضيف الوسطي من بين 3 طرق للانتقال. Adult worm is about 20 to 60 centimeters long, and the mature proglottid is similar to that of Ajnana except it is larger. There are 2 hosts in the life cycle of this parasite. Intermediate host contain the larval stage, which is called cysticercoid, and definitive host contain the adult worm of this parasite. Definitive host, as we said, rats, mice, or a human, especially in children who accidentally ingest infected fleas. Scolex of this worm is unarmed, don't have any hooks, but contain 4 spherical suckers. Proglottids: about 800 to 1000 proglottids. Each proglottid contain 3 spherical bodies, which are testes, the first one, second, and the third one, while this structure is ovary. Genital pore locate on the left margin of each segment. Gravid segment: each one of these segments is a gravid segment, full of fully embryonated eggs, which mean contain hexacanth embryo or oncosphere. Diagnosis. Habitat of this parasite in the small intestine. So, diagnostic stage by determination of eggs in the stool. Eggs larger than the size of Hymenolipus nana egg. Outer shell is transparent, yellowish in color. Between outer membrane and embryophore, we can't see polar filament. There is no polar filaments. Life cycle. Eggs pass in stool, ingested by intermediate host, hatch to oncosphere, which penetrate intestinal wall of the intermediate host. Oncosphere convert to cysticercoid in the intermediate host. Mode of infection by ingestion of intermediate host contain cysticercoid. After ingestion, cysticercoid go to the small intestine, attach with the mucosa of small intestine by the 4 spherical sacars, and begin to form the other segments of the worm. Clinical presentation. Hymenolipus nana and Hymenolipus diminuta infections are most often asymptomatic. Heavy infections with Hymenolipus nana can cause weakness, headache, anorexia, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. The other parasite is Taenia saginata. The common name of this parasite, beef tapeworm. Name of disease, Taeniasis saginata. Intermediate host, cattle. Definitive host, human, is the only definitive host. Habitat of definitive host in the small intestine, while habitat of intermediate host in the muscles. Name of the larval stage, cysticercus bovis. فإذا هذا الطفيلي الاسم العام له هو دودة البقر الشريطية، اعتمادا على المضيف الوسطي والذي هو المواشي. تستقر في العضلات. Morphology. Length of this parasite up to 10 meters. Scolex unarmed, provided with 4 spherical sacars. Number of proglottids from 1,000 to 2,000 proglottids. Uterus contained 15 to 20 primary branches. Uterine pore is located in the lateral portion of the segment. Cysticercus can live about 25 years or more in the animal. Humans become infected by ingestion of raw or undercooked of infected meat of beef. In the human intestine, cysticercus develop over 2 months into an adult tapeworm. Real image of this parasite, as we said, length of this parasite up to 10 meters, contain from 1,000 to 2,000 proglottids. Anterior portion contain scolex provided with 4 spherical sacars, then neck region, immature segments, mature segments, then gravid segments. Scolex with 4 spherical sacars and no hooks. Mature segment, each one contain complete set of male and female genital organs. These small dots are testes, while this structure is the ovary, uterus, and common genital pore. Gravid segment contain about 15 to 20 primary branches of uterus. Egg of Taenia solium and Taenia saginata, the same structure, outer membrane and embryophore, encloses the hexacanth embryo. Life cycle. Life cycle begin at the ingestion of the infected meat of beef, as in Taenia saginata, or pork, as in Taenia solium. We said the larval stage encysted in the muscle of the intermediate host. So, after ingestion of contaminated meat of these intermediate hosts, after ingestion occur process evagination. Larval stage, cysticercus, is a bladder filled with the fluid. After ingestion, scolex move from the bladder form to outside this bladder by process evagination. الطور اليرقي سواء كان cysticercus bovis or cysticercus cellulosi يكون بشكل bladder shape مليء بسائل، وهنا موقع السكولكس. بعد ابتلاع اللحوم المصابة بهذا الطور اليرقي، سواء تم تناول هاي اللحوم بشكل undercooked أو raw meat بشكل ني أو غير مطبوخة بصورة كافية، تحدث عملية انبعاج إلى الخارج. بعدما كان الرأس إلى الداخل في هذا التركيب الحوصلي، يخرج إلى الخارج بعملية الإيفاجينيشن. In the intestine, attach with the mucosa of small intestine and form the segments of the worm. Diagnosis by presents either gravid reglotted or eggs in the stool. These gravid segments or ova ingested by the intermediate host. As we said regarding Taenia saginata, the intermediate host cattle, while Taenia solium, the intermediate host pig. After ingestion of gravid segment or ova, hatch to the oncosphere and penetrate intestinal wall of the intermediate host, circulate in the muscles. This image is cysticercus bovis, bladder shape filled with the fluid, scolex region. Pathogenicity of Taenia saginata. Taenia saginata infection is usually asymptomatic. Heavy infection often results in lost weight, dizziness, abdominal pain, diarrhea, headache, nausea, constipation, chronic indigestion, and loss of appetite. فقدان الشهية, loss of appetite. Intestinal obstruction in a human can be alleviated by surgery. بالتأكيد بما أن ذكرنا أنه طول الطفيلي ممكن يصل إلى 10 أمتار، فوجود أعداد كبيرة من الطفيليات تؤدي إلى انسداد الأمعاء. ممكن تخفيف هذه الحالة بإجراء العمليات الجراحية. Tapeworm can also produce antigens that can cause allergic reaction in the individual. Prevention for Taenia saginata. Adequate cooking. الطهو الكافي at 56 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes of beef viscera to destroy cysticercus, the larval stage, or by freezing at -10 degrees Celsius for 9 days, or by using long periods of salting, is lethal to cysticercus. And inspection of beef and proper disposal of human excreta are also important. Taenia solium, the common name of this parasite, pork tapeworm, regarding to the intermediate host. Name of disease, Taenia solium, intermediate host pork, definitive host human. Habitat of definitive host in the small intestine, while habitat of intermediate host in the muscles. Name of the larval stage is cysticercus cellulosae. Morphology. Scolex armed, provided with 4 spherical suckers, attaches to human intestine, length up to 7 meters. So this parasite shorter in size than the size of Taenia saginata. Live about 25 years or more. Number of proglottids less than 1,000. Gravid proglottid has 7 to 13 primary uterine branches. Eggs are identical to Taenia saginata, measuring about 40 microns in diameter. Larva cysticercus is a fluid-filled bladder with a deeply invaginated scolex. هذا هو الفرق بالمورفولوجي اللي نقدر نميز به الطور اليرقي، سواء كان هذا cysticercus bovis أو هذا الطور اليرقي cysticercus cellulosae، عن طريق السكولكس. نلاحظ السكولكس في cysticercus cellulosae deeply invaginated into bladder filled with the fluid. Infection can occur by ingestion of cysticercus in flesh of swine. Scolex region provided with 4 spherical suckers and hooks. Mature segment contain of complete set of male and female genital organs. These dots are testes, ovary, and uterus. The common genital pore located at the lateral margin of the segment. Mature segment has the same structure of mature segment belong to Taenia saginata. Gravid segment, as we said, contain from 7 to 13 primary uterine branches. Shorter than the number of uterine branches in gravid segment of Taenia saginata. Regarding egg, the same structure in Taenia solium and Taenia saginata. Cysticercus cellulosae, the larval stage of this parasite. We said scolex is deeply invaginated into bladder filled with the fluid. Pathogenicity of Taenia solium. Intestinal infection of Taenia solium is called teniasis, which is asymptomatic. Only in severe cases, conditions of intestinal irritation, anemia, and indigestion occur, which can lead to loss of appetite and emaciation, الهزال, headaches, and dizziness. Ingestion of Taenia solium eggs or proglottids mean auto-infection. This condition, called cysticercus, caused when a person is already infected with adult worm, then swallowing eggs which are found in contaminated food. Humans become the intermediate host. Eggs rupture with the host intestine can cause larvae to migrate into host tissue to cause cysticercus. This is the most frequent and severe disease caused by Taenia solium. فإذا حالة السيستيسيركوسيس أو مصطلح السيستيسيركوسيس بمعنى أنه الشخص المصاب بهذا الطفيلي وهو عادة يكون المضيف النهائي. حالة السيستيسيركوسيس يكون المضيف النهائي أيضا يعمل كمضيف وسطي عن طريق ابتلاع البيوض الخارجة مع الستول من قبل نفس الشخص عن طريق الغذاء الملوث بهذه البيوض أو عن طريق اليد الملوثة بهذه البيوض. بعد ابتلاع هذه البيوض يحدث تفقيسها وخروج الأونكوسفير الجنين، ومن ثم ذهاب هذه الأجنة إلى أنحاء أخرى من الجسم. عند ذهابها إلى أنحاء أخرى من الجسم يطلق عليها مصطلح cysticercus. The severity of cysticercus depends on number 1, location, number 2, size, number 3, number of the larvae in the tissues, number 4, as well as the host immune response. In more severe cases, hypertension can occur due to perturbation of the normal circulation of cerebrospinal fluid. Other symptoms include sensory deficits, عجز حسي, involuntary movements, and brain system dysfunction. In many cases, cysticercus in the brain can lead to epilepsy seizures, نوبات من الصرع, blindness, tumor-like growth. It is the major cause of neurological problems such as hydrocephalus, meningitis, and even death. Prevention and control of Taenia solium. Avoid eating undercooked pork meat or cooking meat or freezing at -10 degrees Celsius for 5 days. Infection can be prevented with the proper disposal of the human feces. For human cysticercus, dirty hands are the primary cause or the primary source of infection, auto-infection, especially common among food handlers. Therefore, personal hygiene is an effective way. Treatment can be treated by praziquantel 5 to 10 milligram per kilogram, single administration, or by niclosamide, or by albendazole, which is highly effective for treating infected cattle. The other parasite is Dipylidium caninum. Common name of this parasite, flea tapeworm, or double paw tapeworm, or dog tapeworm. Name of disease, dipylidiasis, or dog tapeworm infection. Definitive host, dogs, cats, human, mostly in children, including infants. Intermediate host, fleas of cats and dogs. Habitat in the small intestine. Incubation period approximately 20 days. Morphology. Adult worms are medium size, measuring from 10 to 70 centimeters in length. Scolex is rhomboidal, معين الشكل, and has 4 spherical suckers and retractile proboscis. خطم قابل للارتداد أو الانكماش, provided with 6 rows of tiny hooks. Consist of several hundreds proglottids. Real image of the parasite. Anterior portion contain scolex, neck, immature, then mature, and gravid segments. Mature segment. Each segment contains two sets of reproductive organs, male and female organs. These small dots are testes, while these structures are ovary. Common genital pore. Has two common genital pores, each one at the lateral margin of the segment. Gravid segment. Often, a partial chain of proglottids may be passed a few inches to several feet. Contains numerous egg capsules. Each capsule is filled with 1 to 20 fully embryonated eggs. ممكن خروج الجرافيد سيجمنت والتي تكون حاوية على البيوض التي تكون موجودة بداخل كبسولات. كل كبسولة مزودة بعدد من البيوض الناضجة من بيضة إلى حوالي 20 بيضة في داخل الكبسولة الواحدة. داخل الجرافيد سيجمنت توجد عدد من الكبسولات من الإيج كابسولز. Diagnosis. By recovering gravid segment evacuated in the stool with double genital pores, or by observing egg capsules with reticulate shape. هذا هو شكل الإيج capsule. Life cycle. Definitive host: cats, dogs, and human. Habitat of this parasite in the small intestine. Diagnostic stage: by shedding of a gravid segment in the stool or by eggs in the capsule. Ingested by the intermediate host, which are fleas of cats and dogs. Regarding cats, fleas of cats, Ctenocephalidis aedes, while intermediate host of dogs, Ctenocephalidis canis. Larval stage of a flea after ingestion of eggs. Eggs hatch to oncosphere, penetrate intestinal wall of the intermediate host, and convert to cysticercoid. Intermediate host, which is the larval stage of a flea, convert to adult flea and still contain the infective stage of this parasite, cysticercoid. Mode of infection: after ingestion of the adult flea infected with cysticercoid. After ingestion of this adult flea, cysticercoid go to the intestine, attach by scolex provided with 4 spherical sacars and the 6 rows of hooks, attach with the mucosa of small intestine and begin to form the adult worm, and repeat the life cycle. Signs: Dipylidium caninum tapeworm usually don't cause clinical signs unless the tapeworms are present in large numbers. Diarrhea may occur if these tapeworms are present in large numbers. Preglotid passing through the rectum may cause an irritation, which in turn cause the dog to drag it and fall on the ground. نتيجة تهيج منطقة الركتم تؤدي إلى سحب هذه القطع الجرافيد سيجمنت وسقوطها على الأرض. Treatment either by praziquantel or niclosamide. Prevention: the best way to prevent human infection is to treat infected animals with products which aid in killing the fleas on the animal. انتهت محاضرتنا لهذا اليوم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.